Yeah, so CPS pretty recently has announced cuts to classrooms and teacher layoffs. So at pretty much every school, 3 or 4 teachers are getting fired, clerks are getting laid off, resources are being cut, and it's really unacceptable because CPS is saying we're forced to make these cuts, we have no choice. But there are a few things you can look at, sort of revenue sources. So a few of our demands would be to sue Bank of America and the other Wall Street banks for their toxic swamps and claw back hundreds of millions of dollars in losses and termination penalties. They could also, the city and CPS demand a TIFF surplus and get as much as $100 million or even more to CPS's budget by tomorrow. Thirdly, they could cancel plans for a new selective enrollment high school, Obama College Prep, and get $30 million back into the operating budget right now. So it's very frustrating when CPS acts like they have to make these cuts, because how we see it, they don't have to. So that's sort of why we're here, telling them that we're not okay with this and we're going to keep fighting them as long as they cut our education and our teachers.
So more generally, these student demonstrations are more so to protest on a state level how public education is taking a back burner to more pressing issues. Like, many schools are underfunded. Schools in the South and West Side, for example, don't get enough resources or funds or anything. This rally specifically is talking about budget cuts, tariff raises, as well as the lack of charter school expansion in the city of Chicago. So that's generally what it's about, and more so about just how, like, we as students feel we're not being represented enough and we don't have enough support from the government and facilities and whatnot. So we're just focusing more on charter school expansion. We'd argue that charter school expansion is negative on students. Many charter schools don't get financed properly once they're built. Teachers still are getting laid off, and on top of that, it's more so not public education being funded. There's not enough unions for teachers that are represented right now. I think it's just that. We're also fighting for TIFF budget funds as well. We'd argue that many of the TIFF funds are sort of a more corrupt, secret, under-the-table deal instead of actually helping public education and public schools more. So we're trying to deal with those two issues in this rally today.
The budget cuts are really affecting us in terms of, once we lose the money, they cut our arts, they cut our PE, they cut our languages, and without those, all we have is core classes, reading, science, math. And if you have all those credits, now you're looking at senior year and it becomes boring. You're just taking these classes that at this point you don't really need. So what we're trying to do is we're trying to raise this money and help them understand this is our education. Stuff like the arts, it broadens children's horizons. It helps them reach for a better future. Languages, it'll further your job market. I mean, you see someone who is bilingual versus someone who only speaks one language, and the bilingual person has better opportunities because of what they can do.
We're going broke with the CPS, not even just for classes and stuff like that, but they're taking away, like, summer school. It's called, like, event to learning class. They're also taking away, just for New Year's Eve, they had a big special event for New Year's Eve, like a big party in downtown. Yet all that money that could be doing that, they could be going to us.
Today marks the end of 1,000 careers for picture wordsmiths, painting sounds with fingertips. There isn't the time anymore, or the money. My school's budget anchored, and in black and brown neighborhoods they'll be drained clear to the ground. Old teachers will linger in the air like ghosts, sometimes hearing their voices like a breath of fresh air tinted with the perfume of someone you used to know. You'll be twisted back somehow into a smoky nostalgia and realize the feeling is wanting to go to art class. I want to make art about how we are not allowed to make art, but these hallways are plaque-filled vein, constricted vessel that we no longer flow through. Classrooms packed tight with jello dripping teenagers oozing through cracks in doors, windows, lockers, not even enough trees in the room to supply the necessary oxygen. My high school's cadaver body is nothing but bone and formaldehyde joint, a complex organism reduced to spare parts that no longer produces extraordinary thinking machines. The surgeons have finally picked out enough muscle tissue for symptoms to begin to show. They sell the organs of our system on the black market, never taking enough to be accused of crime, and even then their whiteness would save them. They always threaten to grab for the art, but it's the hardest to get to, kept directly underneath collarbone and vein, but now they've cracked us open and their cold, gloved hands are digging through the student body cavity, looking for anything worth enough to trade. The surgeons come to us when they can't fix their own messes. With soap or peroxide, they come, taking our textbooks, talking behind our backs, stealing our lunch money. So tell me, Rauner, where's the real bullying problem? The Board of Ed won't leave us be. They are hornets circling the trash can leftovers of a system that was built broke on purpose. They want to privatize every inch of our body, expecting us to function with 22% of our hearts taken out. The time is now for the blood to raise our voices. We have been circulating a broken system far too long, functioning only enough to keep gasping our art's last dying breath. We scream in numbers. We union red. We painting pictures of 800 students in the streets. Whose streets? Our streets. We deadly, we lively, we hear, we screaming for those who were never heard in the first place. We are ready to take back what is ours and make ourselves whole.
The system has been broken since 50 years ago, and no one has tried to fix it that has the power to fix it. It is time for us to institute this change. We, the youth, are the future of America, and they cannot take away our future. We are here to stand up for our future, and I want to thank all of you for coming out today, because it is such a huge deal that you care about your future. Because if no one cares, no change will happen. Thank you.
And cutting these teachers' pays and cutting out of these programs is cutting out of our lives, is cutting out of our futures. It is disrespectful in the utmost way to cut out of the livelihood of someone who is building on the livelihood of the future. That's unacceptable. They're helping build us up, so we have to help build them up now. We're not going to let our teachers have their pay cut. We're not going to let our lives and our futures be cut down to the size that we are meant to fit into because they say that we have to. That's right. These are our schools. We go here, we learn, we build what will be there when they're long gone. And we can't stand for it anymore. Whose schools? High school!
Forrest Claypool will send out a memo and they'll say we're forced to make these cuts. We have no choice. We have no money.
He's a liar.
It's lies. There are many things they could do. They can stand up to Bank of America and the other Wall Street banks and claw back hundreds of millions of dollars that they've already paid in bogus interest rates, and hundreds of millions of dollars that they have to pay in the future in termination penalties. They're not doing it right now because they just don't want to stand up to the banks. They can declare a TIFF surplus today and get $100 million, maybe even more, we don't know. There's at least $100 million into the CPS operating budget tomorrow.
Yeah, that's right.
They can cancel plans for a new selective enrollment school on the north side, Obama College Prep, and get $30 million back into the operating budget today. Yeah. That's maybe 90 schools that then wouldn't have any layoffs. They aren't taking action because they really don't care about us. Their kids go to University of Chicago Lab, their kids go to Latin, their kids go to Waldorf, where they're not forced, where they're not subjected to high-stakes testing and teacher layoffs and cuts. Yeah. They don't give a damn about any of us. And that's basically why we're here today, to tell Forrest Claypool, Bruce Rauner, Rahm Emanuel that they cannot cut from our classrooms, they cannot lay off our teachers, and that they need to come up with a plan for our education to fund our education. Now, this fight won't be over today, it won't be over tomorrow, it won't be over a week from now. The fight will be over when Rahm Emanuel is out of office, when Bruce Rauner is out of office, when we have a Board of Ed that listens to us and that we actually voted for, and when we have a system where we all have a high-quality public education, the education we deserve.